vibe with me? Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' order. We don't do the cease and desist around here. But I'm going to watch my mouth because I have it on good authority that Shedeur is listening real closely. But tonight, it's all about the NBA playoffs. We got Knicks and Pacers about to start the fourth quarter. We got the defending champs in the 0-1 hole. Is it time to panic? And of course, we got Get It Off My Chest. So it is I, your unorthodox statistician, 5, going left so much that you thought I was southpaw. And of course, it wouldn't be Sports Reports' order if I didn't have the even kill. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem, dedicated veteran father. Don't bring feelings, Mr. Logic. All right, we're back. And of course, like I said before, we're going to start this thing off like we always do with Get It Off My Chest right about now. So,
perfect.
Yeah, so as I was sitting here, Mr. Logical's about to contradict everything that I'm about to say because he's like, yo, why you talking about football? But but as we head down the path of this 12-team playoff, I was having a conversation yesterday and I was thinking to myself, why are we still pretending? We wouldn't let UCF in the playoff. We threw Cincinnati a bone. Why are we playing these games? We know that South Florida is not going to win the national title. We know Tulane is not going to win the national title. Colorado State, so on and so forth. We didn't even give Boise a shot when they deserved it. So I say that to say, why are they even still at this level? Like, I know there's been talk lately about a G5 playoff, separate from the P4, which is weird to say, playoff.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about this is that, like, a lot of these decisions on who's in the Power 5 or Power 4 and all this was made back in the 1900s. Like, we still had segregation. This was pre-World War I when a lot of these decisions was made of who was in these conferences. And people are like, well, why don't Boise just join the Pac-12? Because the Pac-12 has to agree to that. And they weren't going to agree to that. So yes, we've seen Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and UCF join the Big 12 now. They're a part of the party. But is there anybody else out there that has the cachet and the success to join this party? If not, stop acting like they got a chance to win the national title. You got your 4 power conferences. You got Notre Dame. That's your FBS. Stop playing these games and wasting our time.
Nah, play the games. Play them. You never know what's going to happen. I know a lot of teams. I mean, we saw last year Texas versus Rice. I think it was like week 1. And this through attrition, Texas overwhelmed Rice. But in the first half, they didn't look that good. And if the weather, like literally the sun was leaning on the Rice bench while Texas had shade. So in the second half, they just kind of overwhelmed them. But you never know. In December, January, give Tulane a shot against Ole Miss if they happen to be in the 5-12 matchup. I'd rather see, I know we talk about this with college basketball, like the Cinderella is cool the first couple of rounds, but people don't want to see Cinderella go all the way to the ball, get the prince, and get the carriage and everything else. But in the cartoon, she got the whole kit and caboodle. So I figured college football, you got to give it a shot because other than that, we're going to get 12 teams. We're going to get 3 SECs. Or it's going to be standard. There's going to be 3 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams. So it's going to be the same thing. It's like, yo, give UCF a shot, give USF, especially if their record is worth it. Like we talked about the year Cincinnati got in. Me and you had a conversation about where Houston was ranked versus I think like Mississippi State that was about to play Alabama. Houston had one loss and they were ranked 23rd. Cincinnati was around 5 or 6 and they were undefeated. It was like they set it up that way. So when your 8th ranked SEC school plays a number 3 SEC school, you can keep that number 3 school high, even if they lose. You could bring them down to 6, move the other team maybe to 5, something like that, because they were maneuvering because there's only 4 spots. Now with the 12 slots, I think you'd be a little bit more honest, and I think you're more likely to get the matchups you want. We're already going to get these interconference matches ups already with USC moving to the Big 12, so we're going to get, we're going to get Ohio State, Michigan versus USC. We're going to get some good college football games. So at the end of the year, I think it's going to be better than the completely fraudulent process we've had in place since 2000 between the BCS, that mathematical and all of everything else they had going on, or the regular vote they had in the 90s. At least 12 teams. Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 of them are going to be lambs to the slaughter, but give them a shot. They put their cleats on just like everybody else. They put their pads on, and if they finish in the top 12, give them a shot.
All right.
Yeah. Like we'll have a little football talk. I'm already over the 2025 mock draft conversation I'm already seeing popping up on my feeds. We don't even know all the numbers that the 2024 draft picks are going to wear. We don't even know how many are going to make the team. We don't know how many are going to get cut in training camp. And we're already projecting quarterbacks are going to be practice squad quarterbacks next year. If they get drafted in the NFL, they won't get drafted at all. It's like, stop with the mock drafts for games that have been played, because Joe Burrow was projected to be a 5th round pick before he went out through 60 touchdowns for LSU and they won a national championship. He went number 1 overall. Jaden Daniels projected to be like a 3rd or 4th round pick. He went 2nd overall. Caleb Williams projected to be number 1 pick for a couple of years. Drake May was projected to be the number 1 pick a couple of years back. So it is a crazy science, but let it play out. Stop projecting past the football season that hadn't even started yet. It's like, I get it. Everyone's searching for content. We'll talk about stuff that happened. Review last season. Preview a team that people don't talk about a lot. Like, you know what? If you have a football segment, NFL or college, talk about the team last year. Talk about what they did in the transfer portal. What you think they're going to do. Stop coming up with these arbitrary mock drafts that don't mean shit, because we literally just watch all these people put mock drafts out and had a completely different person going number 8 overall with all this information coming out in a completely different position and person with number 8 overall. And we were having this conversation the week of. You're not going to get it right 11 months early. So just cut it out. Stop trying to prognosticate. Stop trying to be Nostradamus. Just talk about what you know. The season just ended a few months ago. New rules going forward. You can have a great context-based conversation off of stuff that we already know. Stop trying to wing it, because you sound dumb. You just sound dumb saying like, oh, I got this tackle out of Iowa that's going to be a top 10 pick. No one cares. Literally no one cares. No one cares right now about the 2025 top defensive end that's going to come out of, Oregon State or whatever school you're going to come from. Like, Coach nobody cares. Yeah. He does it for content. He does it to create buzz, which is even that. And I love Deion. Even that's obnoxious. It's like, you got to get through the season and not look overwhelmed.
I was trying to watch my mouth tonight. Here you go.
You just got to get through the season, not look overwhelmed. That's it. That's all I said. Because last season, based on information I have, at certain points of the season, the team looked overwhelmed. They were overmatched, and he talked about that. So that's a great conversation to say, hey, we're going to be better next year because we did this in the transfer portal. That's a great conversation to have. I don't want to hear the conversation that you have 2 top 10, top 5, top 4 draft picks from any coach on your team before you even play a spring game.
Sound like Coach Cal. But anyway, moving on.
Moving on to what's going on right now, the NBA playoffs.
So I got to make a statement real quick because for a lot of years, people used to always tell me the NBA is better when the Knicks are good. The NBA needs the Knicks to be good. And I used to always say, get out of here. No, we don't. Like, it's basketball. I'm here to watch whoever. And it's true. But I can't lie. Watching that series against Philly, it was just different. The crowd was just different. The energy was different. The organs was going off. It was like, like the Undertaker was about to come through. It was like epic moments after epic moment. So like I have to fall back on that one. And props to New York City, for standing up and representing. But with that being said, they're down by 6 right now to the Pacers. So, Mr. Logical, looking back at the first round, did you see anything from the Knicks that scares you about this series against Indiana?
See, like my argument for the Knicks is probably the same thing people have been saying about Tibbs for years. He plays like 6 or 7 guys, and of that 6 or 7, 2 of them probably played a whole game. So it's not as if you're rotating them out.
Start, and you fought me on that.
I know. Like I get, but I didn't think he was going to go to seven guys and run them and as tough as he did. And I get that you go what you know, but it might behoove him to try to go to 8 or 9 players, work the ball through somebody else, get another shooter, get somebody else out there so Jalen Brunson's not banging. Luckily, he has a small point guard on him now, the young white point guard. So he has him. But if he has to like bang with Drew Holiday next round, if they make it out of this round, or what's the boy, Derek White, or even get switched on by Tatum, and he has to like dribble through all of that contact, you're gonna wear him out. I think this round you might be safe, but Indiana does play fast. They play young. They're playing like they're playing with house money. So I think they got a shot.
Yeah, I think for me, the thought is Knicks in 5. I thought that the Pacers would come out and win tonight, just because of the adjustment that the Knicks had to make playing a team like Philly that's slow and grinding, and the Pacers, like you mentioned, just being young and pushing the ball up the court. It's like playing OKC in some ways, not as good, obviously, but it's like playing a team like that. And then when you are playing your guys these minutes, a lot of them are young, but at the same time, coming off of the physical series that Philly was, your legs got to catch up. So that's why I thought Indiana had a chance to steal game 1 tonight. But after tonight, I think the Knicks are going to adjust, and it's just going to be a gentleman's sweep, get the Pacers out of here. I would like to see the Pacers actually win this series just from the story standpoint and just to have something unexpected, but I just can't see it long term, over the course of winning 4 times.
Yeah, I think they're playing pretty solid tonight. I just think that Jalen Brunson has that. I think he's on a special run, like Anthony Edwards or Jokic last year, or like Jamal Murray back in the bubble. Just sometimes guys just get on a run, and it's just like they're going to make play after play, like Maxey in the game where they were down 6 in the Garden, and he gets you 7 points, or gets you 7 points in 15 seconds. I mean, so it's like, I think he has a run like that in him in this game. If they can get him back to the bench for like maybe a minute or 2, or maybe use their timeouts wisely to where he's not exhausted. Because I think Indiana just called a timeout because Josh Hart came through on a dunk. The lane is open for Indiana, like they're jumping and running the guys off the 3-point line pretty aggressively. So these guys are sneaking through and getting dunked. So I mean, you get a couple of easy baskets over the next couple of minutes. Right now, we got 9:25 left.
And it's hard to judge Indiana, right? Because they just went 6 with Milwaukee with no Giannis. Dame missed 2 games, or whatever it was. So it's kind of hard. You're like, my inclination initially was, if y'all are struggling with Milwaukee like this, how can I expect you to challenge the Knicks? But styles make fights. So if Tibbs is going to keep his guys out there and play that short rotation that you're talking about, and that's the same thing that we're going to run into when we get to Denver in a second.
And just like that, real quick, good pressure defense by New York. They got a 3 out of it. Halliburton wasn't looking at the rim. He had an opportunity. He passed it up, and now they're only up 1 with the pressure on.
And don't forget as well, Jalen Brunson is the playoff leading scorer at 33.5 points. So what are your thoughts on Orlando? They made it to Game 7.
I think they're just sitting fine. Just run it back next year. Don't think you should go for a Klay Thompson or any of these moves or whatever move you think you can get.
Like a lot of the podcasters and media has been talking about Paul George. I don't think they need Paul George. I do think that they need a stabilizer. They need to find like a Mike Conley type, just to settle them down.
But I think every team needs a guy like that, and I don't know if there are that many available. So since there are not that many available, I would just stick with my guys. And
I've been beating the horn for CJ McCollum. That's who I would like to see them go after.
I don't know if he's a leader.
He might not. I don't know. I think he is, but I don't have any proof to say that he is.
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't see him making leadership.
I know that he's respected around the league, but I don't know how that.
I think he's like in an NBA PA rep. I know he has that, but as far as like his impact on the floor, like I just don't recall any moment in New Orleans where they were just kind of down and needed like that guy to make that play, and he was involved in it. It's not a knock on him. It's just like I don't know if you bring him in, like. Do you bring him off the bench, and what's his impact? I think sometimes we can kind of get too creative instead of just keeping it simple. Like if you look at OKC, they got Gordon Hayward, but Gordon Hayward gets a few minutes here and there, nothing crazy. But
so how many games? So how many games are you giving Cleveland against Boston?
I'm gonna give them 1 game because Boston's gonna go 9 for 40 from 3. And Cleveland's going to have one of those games where they go like 17 for 35 and Boston gives you one like that. The Miami game where Miami had 23 threes.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland's going to get one of those games.
I'm giving Cleveland nothing.
Boston's going to give you one.
Now, I know Porzingis
They gave Atlanta 2.
I know that was last year. I know Porzingis is out. He has the Giannis injury. So he may miss the whole series. You would think, in theory, that should open up Evan Mobley, but Cleveland doesn't give him the ball. On the other side of the ball, Horford's going to pull him out of the paint. So he's going to be ineffective that way. So I think that if Boston wants it, I think they can name their score.
Yeah, they could. They could. Like I said, it's going to be one game that Boston just goes, like I said, 9 for 39, 9 for 40 from 3. Probably maybe at home because they're just kind of they know like they have Cleveland beat. I think Boston has every team in the NBA position for position. I think they got them all covered. I think
that Orlando would have been the better matchup, just from the standpoint of the wings. Having Paolo and Wagner, whereas like when you look at Cleveland. Their wings are small, Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro. They don't have the wingspan / they can't affect the game the way that Boston's wings can on defense.
Yeah, but Boston has 8 guys that have green lights to shoot open threes.
This is true.
So two of them, all they do is that, and that's Pritchard and Hauser. But they're both pump fake, get into the lane, move the ball around because so many guys are on the floor at one time that have green lights.
Yeah, Biggerstaff is coaching for his job. Donovan Mitchell, people
get to the second round of playoffs and you still coaching for your job. It's a tough gig, man. It's a tough gig being an NBA coach.
Yeah, and it took Donovan. Even the game that Donovan Mitchell scored 50 against Orlando, 53 to be exact, He scored all 18 of their points in the fourth quarter, and they were still outscored by 12. You know what I mean? And that's where, like, going back to our preview, that's where I said Cleveland and Orlando are mirror images of each other because neither one of them have anything that resembles an offensive system, but Cleveland had Donovan Mitchell, and that was the difference in the series. So when you go against Boston, I just feel Boston has too many long arms that are awaiting Donovan Mitchell's arrival into the paint for him to be effective. So Darius Garland might have to
and then you'll have Drew Holiday, White, Hauser, Pritchard, Horford on the floor, and all five of them can still shoot. They all have green lights. So you can get Tatum and Brown off the floor for a break and still have to play tough 3-point line defense. And like I said, they'll still take it to the cup because they'll move it around after that initial pass. I think they just play like a style that works, and they have the players that match their style.
Right. And so look, I'm gonna just put it like this. Clippers gonna clip. You know what I mean? Like relying on Paul George is tough. Relying on James Harden is pointless. Relying on Kawhi is impossible. So, like a lot of people were picking the Clippers out there, and I just don't know why. As I look back at that series, do you have questions about Dallas going forward since they allowed the Kawhi-less Clippers to get 2 off of them?
Well, I think you get your NBA players, they're going to get 1 or 2. Luka was hobbled for a couple of games that he came to life. I think I'm worried about them against OKC just because OKC can just run. They can just run, and they all play well. They play well together. They're really unified. They're really in tune with like their local fan base or local media. Like at the end of the series, they all left the national broadcast interview to do the local guys. So it's like I think they just have a little bit of chemistry.
I'm taking Dallas in 6. I think that Luka and Kyrie can slow it down enough, pound the ball, if you will. The question is going to be, can Lou Dort force Luka into bad offense? So Luka still hasn't really had, I guess, a game in the playoffs this year on par with his regular season. So that's always in the back of your mind. But can Lou Dort hold Luka to 30 points, but make him go 11 for 30 to get it? Make him go 8 for 25 to get it. Because SGA can match Luka point for point if necessary. Jalen Brunson with the 3, or is there a foul on the play? And then, with Kyrie, on the other hand, J-Dub, Jalen Williams has had a great season. He can probably score close to Kyrie. So if Kyrie gets you 27, he might be able to get you 22 or 23. But I don't know if he can do it consistently enough the way that Kyrie can. So that's where it comes down to the others. Is Holmgren going to be able to hold up against Gafford and Lively? Who's going to help him? I've been on here all year talking about OKC's struggle with rebounding. I don't see how that gets fixed in this series. Dallas will miss shots because they will take shots. But if you can't grab the rebound, if you're OKC, it's all for naught. Like, for example, Josh Hart has 13 rebounds right now as we speak. Is there anybody on OKC that can play outside of themselves, outside of Chet, and grab rebounds? So SGA, obviously, I'm going to give him respect. He's in the MVP conversation. Some people think that he should be the MVP. So I got to give him at least 1. They have a good enough home court advantage to where they can get 2. I could even see OKC going up 2-0 in this series. But then Dallas went in 4 straight. But the pick is Dallas in 6. I think that Dagnall is a better coach than Jason Kidd. I just think that Dallas has an embarrassment of riches because you got PJ Washington now. You know, Derek Jones is probably going to defend SGA a lot during this series. And like I said, Dort on Luka should be the matchup of the series. You know, the last meeting I can't even do anything with because Kyrie and Luka sat. It was the last game of the season. And OKC played everybody so they could secure the number 1 seed. So I don't even have that to go off of. But right now, in my gut, I'm feeling Dallas in 6.
You got Dallas beating OKC in 6.
Yeah.
Let me check my notes here. Hold on.
And, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, playoffs usually comes down to who has the best players. And you know, like not only do you have Luka, but you got Kyrie as well. But they got an SGA and like not anybody as good as Kyrie after that.
Yeah, but I think their collective, I think the collective works against Dallas because if Kyrie or Luka are just not on, say the knee gets tight, he's a little hobbled, or you take a bad fall, nothing crazy, but just something that slowed you down a little bit. Then you have the home court advantage for OKC. They're young, like I said, maybe they're a little naive and they don't know they're not supposed to be here, but they have matchup problems. They have a guy that can defend Luka or Kyrie. They have Chet who can cause problems at the rim. And I don't know if you have a guy you can just lock up with SGA and wrap it up. And I think the fact that, like I said, I don't think people are picking OKC because they're so young. It's like, yo, they had to battle through some stuff last year. They were almost in the play-in. And then, like, you know, we turned it around this year. Number 1 seed is like, the change in the guard is coming.
It is.
Unfortunately for Luka, and he didn't get to grab as much of the success pie as a lot of these other guys, these other legends that are out of the playoffs, like Steph and LeBron and AD and Kawhi and KD and those other guys have a lot more success. Luka might just be caught in this wave where every other team was like growing their team. And then because he plays on Dallas, they were trying to microwave it. Every couple of years, they made a couple of moves. They were like, because even the Kyrie move, people were looking like, we don't know if you needed that. You might need another role player, somebody else that can play off of Luka, not necessarily a guy that plays just like Luka, just a little shorter.
Well, I think Dallas is just too big. You know, I've been talking about OKC's rebounding all year. I just think they're too big. You know, Lively, Gafford, PJ Washington is going to be a good defender. He's going to get you some corner shots. You know, so I just like Dallas in this series. But the other series in the West, we got drama because Minnesota walked into Ball Arena and took game 1 from the champs.
I got a gentleman's bet with my pops. I got Minnesota. Now this is I got Minnesota in 6. And the reason I got him in 6 is because I know Denver came back against the Lakers and it was quite impressive. But the simple fact that the Lakers, who arguably aren't that deep of a team as the Knicks take the lead, the Lakers had that series lead for 70% of the time. Mm-hmm. Yes, Jamal Murray made 2 clutch game-winning shots, which is dope moments. But for so many moments, so much time in that series, they were not performing up to the level. Maybe they were playing down to the Lakers, or maybe the Lakers just really figured out something and Darvin Ham really couldn't get the final piece to work out. I don't know if that's the case. I don't believe that's the case.
It wasn't the case.
All I'm saying is if you looked at those numbers, if you looked at the numbers and said one team led 70% of the, you would think, okay, if we looked at the OKC,
Darvin Ham was out there going 0 for 7 from 3.
I didn't say it was anybody's fault. I'm just saying if we looked at any other series with that information, I'm bet you in the OKC series, they probably led 60 or 70% of the time and they swept. You can look at the Minnesota series. I bet you their numbers as far as like the leading the percentage of time are probably on par the Lakers had over Denver. And then when you have what Minnesota,
Appreciate you, Scott.
appreciate it.
You.
We try not to be biased. I like what you have with Cat being the former number one option. I want to say recognizing that Anthony Edwards is the number one option now, but still playing like, oh, I'm part of a team that is dominating now. The Rudy Gobert trade, everyone laughed at it, but it seems like it's going to work now. Like I said, they have the size that's going to win them the West. I got them right now in the Western Conference Finals, and we'll just. But I got them beating Denver in 6.
Well, I think that this series is the Western Conference Finals. I think the winner of this series, yes, the winner of this series goes to the NBA Finals. That's how I feel. With that being said, I picked Denver in 7. I'm sticking to it. I got a couple of questions, though. So when I look at Minnesota, obviously Anthony Edwards has announced his arrival to the world. He's
Correct.
here to stay. He's not going anywhere. But now I got to figure out, one, how does Minnesota handle prosperity? 2, how does Minnesota handle adversity? So I expect the Denver Nuggets to make adjustments tonight. I expect them to win tonight, tie the series up at 1. That does not mean that they're going to take control of the series because, like I said, it's going 7 in my mind. But how does Minnesota react to tasting their blood for the first time? That's a question that we don't know the answer to.
Or maybe they don't have a fear.
Karl-Anthony Towns picked up a foul the first play of the game the other day, like seconds into the game. This is what he does. You know what I mean?
Definitely has to just dog. You got to be out there. Your best ability is your availability.
Yes. So Denver, of course, the problem is they don't have Bruce Brown. They don't have Jeff Green walking through those doors. But I do like what Peyton Watson brings to the table. KCP is not going to be able to slow Anthony Edwards down, so they're just going to have to do that by committee. I think the key for Denver is going to be Aaron Gordon because Jamal Murray hasn't put a full game together yet. A lot
of those guys couldn't play against the Lakers. A lot of those role players didn't get minutes because they were always coming from behind.
Right. And what I do like about this series right now for Denver is, of course, Jamal Murray's banged up with the calf injury or whatever he had going on. After tonight, they don't play until Friday. So, so he gets some time to ice it up, do whatever he needs to do to get ready, come out Friday night ready to rock and roll. Also, Jokic had a bad game by his standards the other day. He had 7 turnovers, but he also had 32, 9, and 8. So Gobert's not going to stop him. It's just a matter of slowing him down, which they did. He went 11 for 25. But I also think that with Jokic's basketball IQ, that's not going to be the norm for the series. So now, back to your point, though. Denver cannot survive like this. You can't put yourself in these holes and then just expect that championship pedigree is going to carry you to the end of the game. It doesn't work that way when you get to this level of the playoffs. So I don't know if Denver took the Lakers lightly per se. I think Denver knew they could beat the Lakers, but I don't think they took them lightly. I think the Lakers actually match up pretty well with Denver. It's just that their best player is damn near 40 years old. So I like Denver. If they lose tonight, they're definitely in trouble if they lose tonight. Going up to the Target Center after losing 2 in a row at home. But
I think they're in trouble because, like I said, we talked about these young teams and the changing of the guard is something that you and I have been talking about for months. You don't want to give these guys too much confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to give these guys who play the way they play, at the speed they play, with the continuity that they play with. You don't want to go down 0-2. These refs are butchering these calls.
Yeah, speaking of refs, let me go back to the first round
Sorry.
for a quick second. When you said that, it triggered something in my mind. It was that who knew Joel Embiid was so dirty?
He was doing a lot of unnecessary stuff. It was just a lot of unnecessary just behavior. But honestly, I think it was a matter of he was dead tired. He was hurting so bad. I'll give him so many props for gutting it out. That's why I kept yelling at the Knicks. I'm like, yo, just take it at him. Just take it to his chest. Like, if you took it to his chest 6 times, if you put him in pick and roll 6 times, maybe he blocks 1 or 2 of them. But for the most part, he's probably going to either get beat to the rim or he's going to get a foul. So 4 out of 6 opportunities, I think you're going to get opportunity for points. Like, the shot, you're going to get the shot off, or you're going to get, free throws. But they just didn't. They just kind of went away from it. And then the games when they did do it is when they were pretty much wire to wire, but then they let Tyrese Maxey go off.
Joel Embiid is like the perfect example of why I complain about this NBA. Like, yeah, he had 50 points. Yeah, he's a good 3-point shooter. But there ain't no way his big ass should be going like 11 for 30 and stuff like that. I don't care how many jumpers you're shooting. Get your big ass. You hurt anyway. Get your big ass down there.
He was playing with the brace on, and I think he played the game without the brace. He wasn't moving very well with the brace, and this Bell's palsy with his face and his eye was like leaking. I mean, dude was going through a lot, and I believe I watched something last year or like early this year. Chet Holmgren and Embiid, like, I guess they've been advised to just fall because you're so big, like you end up hurting yourself trying to like keep your balance. So like he was falling a lot, and I was like, yo, you're falling a little too much, but he just was falling.
Yeah,
but like
for somebody coming off of meniscus surgery, right?
Yeah, but he was like, instead of trying to brace yourself, just fall. But sometimes he was flopping. That's how he fell into Danny Green.
Yeah, I just like the Sixers. They got some soul searching to do. But did you see Pat Riley got a lot to say, don't he?
Pat Riley, old, he don't care. Jalen Brunson just dribbled the ball out of bounds.
We seen the last of Jimmy Butler in Miami?
Yeah, I think sometimes you just kind of wear you welcome in certain places. Yeah, that went off his foot. What's going on here?
Yeah, it went off his foot. Yeah. Jimmy Butler is, like, I brought this up. I don't know. I remember you talked about it a little bit as well, but when you take the regular season, when you don't take it seriously.
Yeah, you take it lightly.
And injuries happen, right? Injuries happen. But if Jimmy might have played 3 or 4 extra games, you might not even have been in that play-in game. So,
I think the Heat culture, I think the post LeBron, the Miami Heatles, I think Pat Riley doesn't want to go back to that. I think he doesn't want to be in a situation where you're Rob Pelinka and you're trying to placate to your best player. You want to be like Mark Cuban was dealing with in Dallas, where it was like, yo, you're wasting his talent, and now you're reaching for trades. You don't want to be in Phoenix situation where there's like, oh, what are you going to do? Let's trade away all these other guys and fire this coach and make all these moves. I think he was like, you know what? I'm just going to stay consistent. The problem was you had a couple of guys on your team, Vincent and Strus. You probably should have paid them. I mean, you probably should have, like, even if it was a little bit above premium, you probably still should have paid them just to keep that together, because you're just kind of creating this expectation that, oh, we're just going to plug in some other guys, this Nikola Jokic, or whatever his name is, play like, Jokic. So I was like, I think that's another thing. But also, like, I mean, when you've been that successful for that long as Pat Riley has been, it's like, I mean, how many advisors does he really have? And who's going to tell him more about basketball than he already knows?
Right.
So it just might be a situation where you're just a little stale as far as your your idea of how you're going to put this team together because they need a superstar. Every team needs a star. You need a guy that can get you buckets. You need a guy who is on the cusp of being an all NBA player. Like you need that guy.
Is this a tear down situation you're thinking?
Yeah, I think it will be. It might be a Pat Riley step down situation where he's like, you know what? What else can you do? What else can you do with that roster? I mean, it's too late to go get KD.
Nobody wants Hero.
No one wants Tyler Hero.
You know, Jimmy Butler back to Philly. I've heard Jimmy Butler or Paul George to Philly is.
I'm trying to see this play.
Oh
yeah, it went off you.
And you know, but Philly, I think, is just done for because you just can't rely on Embiid. Even when he is healthy, you can't rely on him, but you can't rely on him to be healthy in the first place. So, you know, Milwaukee's going to be the wild card here. I'm surprised, Frank, you know, with all the talk, Frank Vogel hasn't been fired yet. I don't think he should be fired, but I know that came out around the same time as the Darvin Ham stuff.
That is
we are behind. We are behind.
Yeah,
he's just saying, "Wow, like you know, I'm trying to see what's going on here." You know,
yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so you know, back to Orlando for a second. You know, the youth came through. You know, same thing, new NBA, right? They had a possession yesterday where Cleveland came back, took the lead. They were down by 6, and they proceeded to get 3 offensive rebounds on the same possession, shot all 3-pointers, missed all of them. You know, it's just like, come on, man. Like, Wagner went 1 for 15. Suggs went 2 for 13. For people doing math at home, that's 3 for 28.
Just pump fake, get to the hole, get your 3 the old-fashioned way. It seems like when you watch these games, it catches defenses off guard when you pump fake and drive to the lane because somebody rotates over late. Now you got to foul 3 points the old-fashioned way.
Snitching, Residente, no spoilers. but yeah, Paolo Banchero definitely announced himself as well. They don't have the parts that Minnesota has, but they have a good foundation to build from. You know, we talked about Miami, we talked about Philly, but Milwaukee's the wild card. Where does Milwaukee go from here? Like, I don't know if they need to make trades, but I don't know if Doc Rivers is going to be the answer. What does Milwaukee do now?
I don't think that Doc Rivers is the answer. It's just another retread coach. I do believe that Milwaukee, I think their window might be closing. And it might be time to see if you can maximize some trade opportunities, get some young talent in there. I know Brooklyn tried that, but I don't know if Brooklyn has the infrastructure from the front office wise to properly do it.
That's weird. There's nothing that takes longer than the last 15 seconds of a basketball game. Like literally, like you could go warm your car up and, you know, put something in the microwave, you know, drink
all
40.
All the concessions are closed.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So Jalen Brunson at the free throw line. We're behind. I know. Knicks up 2 with 12.7 left to go. As far as the West goes, yeah, Phoenix is just stuck with what they're stuck with. New Orleans has some questions to answer. Is it time to try to move, see what you can get from Brandon Ingram? You know,
that's probably your only piece.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody wants Zion at this point. You obviously want his talent and hope that you can maximize his talent, but he's just not there.
I don't know what happened with the hamstring in that Lakers game, but I thought if he stays in that game, they win.
If they play OKC with Zion, I think that's a good series.
That's still probably a gentleman.
No, OKC still wins, but no,
yeah.
I'm just saying I think that's a 6-game series, potentially 7. Because I mean, even with the sweep, you know, it wasn't like OKC dominated them.
It's a lot. It's a lot of NBA teams. I know. I heard Matt Ishba, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, say something like, "If you poll the 29 other GMs, 26 of them will take our team." I'm like,
Not true.
nah, I don't know about that player.
Not true.
Not with one guy with a no trade clause getting 160 million dollars, who got you like,
Maybe Charlotte and Atlanta would take and Washington would take your crap,
yeah.
but like,
Oh my
no.
goodness, what is going on here? Oh shit, it's like a football game. I saw
Yeah.
the craziest screen on the sideline.
You can't say the F word, remember? Oh, looks
Oh,
like the Knicks are going to pull this out. There you go. Game 1 is in the books. I thought the Pacers had a chance to come steal it. They did, but they just couldn't pull it out in the end. These young teams, you just can't trust them. Jalen Brunson.
yeah, Jalen Brunson is just. I don't know. I hope they got the ice bath ready for him. It's crazy that
put on the beat. Yeah. So, So yeah.
So far, man, I'm excited. I'm excited about the second round of the playoffs. I think it's a lot of rising stars. I'm excited to see what Ant-Man does tonight. Like I said, we saw what Jalen Brunson. I'm waiting for Tatum. I want that Tatum 40 ball moment. And granted, maybe he should save it for the next round when it's Boston versus New York. I know the NBA is going to love that. If we get Boston, New York. So that means you would have 3 classic matchups. You'd have New York, Philly, which is just, they just go back and forth with everything, but from hip hop to fashion to who's the toughest city, tougher fans. And then you get New York, Indiana, classic throwback, Reggie Miller and the Knicks. And then you get the Knicks and the Celtics in the conference finals. And then you
go. I had to find my second channel. Residente spoiling everything. I had to switch to the alternate channel so I can keep up. But yeah. So but looking at the West, keeping it in the West. What now for the Clippers?
They just got to blow it up. I know Ballmer wants to keep a star.
Can. They want to open that arena. You don't want to open the arena and go, Wizard style.
I mean, listen, the man made a few $1 billion already. I'm pretty sure he can figure out how to turn it around. But I mean, what do you have? You have a bunch of dudes our age.
Yeah, Paul George is probably gone. Harden's a free agent.
That could have gone to high school with us. And you trying to open up a new arena.
Kawhi's knee is trying to leave him, so his knee is a free agent at least. You got Terrence Mann. I'm sure Russell Westbrook won't be back.
Yeah, Russ gonna be gone. I don't know. Maybe you. I would keep at least some size.
Norman Powell, maybe you move Powell.
I don't know. Maybe you go to your G League and see if they have any talent that you can pull up. But what you have on the floor is proof that it's not enough in the West. You got these young teams, because what they have is like a reverse what Minnesota has. Minnesota has one old guy, a couple of young guys, and then they got Gobert, looks like not starting. They got Slow-Mo out there starting, Kyle Anderson. So, so maybe it's just a speed matchup. Oh, that's a charge. Jokic even looked at the ref like he thought he got a charge. Did you see it? You see him pause? Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, they're opening the new arena. Like I said, James Harden's a free agent. So, but I feel like they almost have to re-sign him.
James Harden always seems to be a free agent. Every year.
Well, remember, he was talking about how Daryl Morey's a liar and everything. So
he's always opting in or opting out.
Yeah. Where do the Lakers go from here? Is there anybody out there that I know, like people are talking about Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell? I'm not even trying to look there, but just as far as improving the role players, what can they do?
they butchered their opportunities to keep their role players. So what they're gonna have to do is hope that they hit somebody in the draft that's a surprise, and you're more likely have to run it back.
What if they brought in somebody like, say, like I said, I'm not trying to look for a star, you know what I mean? But what if they brought in somebody like a Bobby Portis?
I don't know what he gives you as far as like space. The problem with the Lakers is that you guys don't have any space, and you don't have a third guy
Well, he
that
could hit
can hit his
shots. They
own
brought
bucket.
in they brought in Jackson Hayes and didn't even play him. You know,
Yeah,
Christian Wood was hurt half the year.
they brought in guys that they couldn't put on the floor and say, create for me. Create your own bucket. Do this, do that. They didn't bring anybody in like that. And I don't know how many of those guys are just out there. Some
Right.
teams have them, some do. Some teams kept their guys. That's a travel, but we don't call it an NBA.
Yeah, Max Christie is a shooter on that team, but he doesn't get the minutes. So maybe with a new coach, you know,
Who's
and
gonna
this
want to coach?
well,
Who's
this
gonna
is
want to
well,
coach
this is the
that
conundrum,
team?
right? This is the conundrum. I was looking at some of the candidates. They wanted Ty Lue. They're not getting Ty Lue. You know,
Yeah.
they wanted Jason Kidd. He just signed an extension. JJ Redick's name was on the list. Rondo's name was on the list. So here we go again, hiring these dudes, and then when it fails, you got your scapegoat in place. Like so I just feel like they're just trying to hire the next scapegoat more than they are.
The problem that I felt with the Lakers is that, like, I felt this for, like I said, multiple years. Rob Pelinka, if he is whoever has final say on roster moves, needs to relinquish that position and bring in an expert, because that's the main piece they have, because they have LeBron because Magic and Kobe say, "Yo, come to LA." It wasn't because Rob Pelinka.
I think LeBron was going to come to
recruited him.
LA anyway.
That's what I'm saying. Like that was the if Kobe would have said something like, "Yo, nah, don't come to my team," I don't think he comes. Like, I don't think LeBron comes and tries to prove to that Carl Anthony Towns get another foul.
I don't know if that one was on him. It might have been, though.
Which would be stupid.
That's what he does. I told you that. I just said that like, what, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
This is what he does.
That's why they didn't start Gobert.
You know what I'm saying?
So they can bring Gobert in when Carl inevitably gets his 2 early fouls. There we go. See, listen, I'm not an NBA coach, but at least I figured that part out. But that's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of the teams. Either the teams tried to microwave it, or they didn't want to pay the guys to run it back. Dallas had that issue after they beat the Miami Heat. They had guys they probably could have paid. They could have ran it back.
Tyson Chandler.
Those guys were like, you know what? We just won a championship. Yesterday's price, it's not today's price. And Mark Cuban was like, all right, bet. All I need is one championship. As him as an owner, I'm a championship owner. I did what I came out here to do. My team's value is going to increase. I don't have to give you more money for me to succeed as an owner. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he thought that way, but that's where you lose your leverage. Like, I don't need you to be. I still got Dirk, and I still got this arena. I still own this team. So if I don't pay you the $22 million a year that you want, I'll get another guy in here for $8 million. That gives me the same thing you get. Maybe I lose a couple points, but I get another guy in here for $4 million. So I'm spending $12 million to get 20 instead of giving you 22. It doesn't work out.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm here for all of it. So just to recap, let's run through this. So I got Boston in a sweep.
I'm giving them 1 just because I think Boston's going to give them 1.
I got Knicks in 5.
That seems legit.
I got the 2 that we disagree on. I got Dallas in 6.
I'm gonna go OKC in 7.
And then I'm gonna go
cop out.
And then I'm gonna go Denver in 7.
I'm going Minnesota in 6.
You know, and like I said, for all intents and purposes, this series is the Western Conference Finals for me. Whoever wins this series is going to the NBA Finals. I think they're going to meet Boston there unless
Yeah.
something crazy happens. Because I mean, hey, don't count the Knicks out. Like, you know, the way that Jalen Brunson is playing, all it takes is for Anunoby, you know, to play his defensive life out. You know, because he is a great defender. You know, have Jaylen Brown have a couple of bad games. You know, maybe
you would need a lot to beat Boston 4 times.
You would. You definitely would.
You would need a lot because you would still need to play your version of an A game as well.
So
a couple of different guys.
So of the teams that are left in the playoffs right now, East and West, who has the best chance to beat Boston?
Boston.
A word. That's what you're going to do? That's what you're going to do?
That's what I feel. That's what I feel. Like, I just, like I said, is because I think Boston's going to they're going to have an easy series here. Their Eastern Conference final opponent is going to be the Knicks of Indiana. I don't know how difficult those series are. So they're going to get to the NBA Finals with 4 losses. Those games against Miami, man, Tatum and Brown were just sitting around for 15 minutes, 15 game minutes. Like they didn't play the whole fourth quarter in the closeout game. They came out somewhere halfway through the third, and Tatum and Brown both were on the bench the entire fourth quarter of that Miami series. I think it could be like that against Cleveland, where 1 or 2 of the games are just up by 30 with, you know, going into the fourth. And then it's just like these guys are just sitting, resting, not getting banged up. Guys are getting playoff experience. Guys are getting other minutes. Whereas, like I said, I don't think like Denver's role players got that time, and their starters had to play the whole time. I think Boston's going to be well rested, and it's going to be on them because I think their team is built to beat any team because I think just their offense makes defense tougher for the other team.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I think Dallas is the team that could score with them. But Minnesota, you just can't discount Minnesota's the trees. You can't take that for granted, you know, if they use them the right way.
Yeah, but like I said, the 8 guys have green lights on open looks. Like that's who they're gonna run at you. So,
and I know, hey, Denver did beat Boston both times they played during the regular season. I mean, granted, that was the regular season.
Yeah, didn't Detroit beat Boston or Atlanta beat them a couple times?
Indiana beat them a few times, or at least once that I can remember off the top of my head. So, you know,
Phoenix beat Minnesota 3 times.
Well, hopefully, all I can say for the Boston Celtics' sake before we get out of here is that I hope that Boston isn't thinking like you. It's okay for you to think this. Boston can't think this.
I'm gonna do it on the podcast, so like I can think all kinds of crazy stuff and say it out loud. They gotta believe and play and play well.
Yeah, so you know, like I said, I got the Nuggets winning tonight, you know, turning it around and going back to Minnesota tied up. We'll see how that goes, you know, until Thursday. You know, I am 2-5. He is Mr. Logical. We are Sports Reports as ordered. Thanks for the support. Like, subscribe, review, all the good things that are free. You know, they're still free. It's free for grandma. Tell her to come on through.
Share with your grandma.
Share it with her. We will see you. We love you, America. Enjoy the game. Peace.
Minnesota in 6. Let's go.